recommendations and see how we can do that. But anyways, we're still right here, and indeed, like we always would love to do, I would love to give you more information that concerns more that you need to know, and also get more credible information on the things you need to have. And that's why we'll be having a quick interview. It will be for a half an hour, and but as much as it's with that limited time, it is going to really give you more as it concerns your knowledge about the PIA. But anyways, I need to welcome no other person but Noel Fred, Mr. Noel Fred. He's from the Community of Development Advocacy Foundation, and this very great interview is being sponsored by Budget. And good morning, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Okay, I would really want us to just quickly go to it. I really want us to quickly go to it, and we'll quickly ask now. We do know many communities know about the PIA, as many people will say, well, the PIA is one piece of legislation that seems to truly affect them. But let's really get to know now. Let's talk about host community and how the PIA affects them and what they need to know about it.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. A quick recap of what we did last week.
Yes,
Friday.
Precisely.
Last week we talked about the general objective of the PIA,
Okay,
and also the objective of the host community trust fund. So today we'll be dwelling more on what communities need to know.
Okay.
Yes, what they need to know that concerns them on the provisions of the PIA.
Yes.
So the section 242 of the Board of Trustees,
Yes.
that is Board of Trustees composition and management, deals with what steps to be taken, who does it, who sets the board up, and all of that. So this responsibility is actually that of the oil company, the one managing the lease on behalf of the federal government, although in consultation with the communities, the host communities. So I just, because time is limited, I need to go straight into what functions, what communities still need to know about this board actually. The first thing, the board will be set up by the oil company who manages the lease. Now, this is what the board actually has as functions. One, to decide the process and how much of the host community trust fund is to be used for any development program within each and every of the host communities. That's function number one. Communities also need to know that the Board of Trustees will be saddled with the responsibility of approving the budget for the funding of any project within the host communities. The third one is that the trustees, the Board of Trustees, also supervise the projects as they have been approved by the. Then also the other one is approved. They approve the appointment of fund managers for 20%. Last week we talked about the entire fund being 100%, and that 75% would be going for projects, 20% to be invested,
and 5% for the running.
Exactly. So then the next one is to allocate funds for host community for approved budget. Now, these six functions carried out by the board will be monitored by the board through a particular committee called management committee to be set up by the board. Remember, the oil company set up the board. The board set up what you call management committee. Now, the board is at a height, at a certain level. The management committee is at a lower level. So the management committee actually does the groundwork. Day-to-day running of the. So they report to the board, and the board subsequently upstairs the way it is. So section 247 talks about the composition, the setup and composition and powers of the management committee. Now, the board shall set up the management committee for the host community development trust. That is section 247 of the PIA. subsection 2 of that 247 says determines the members of the committee. The board, remember, the oil company determines who becomes the members of the board. The board, in turn, determines who become the members of the management committee in consultation with the communities. The communities, all members of the communities are nominated from within. All members of the management committee are nominated from the communities. Okay. And so there are two categories of persons in the what we call management committee. The first one is one representative from each of the host communities to be nominated by the communities
themselves
to form member
of the
management on what we call a non-executive status.
Non-executive.
Exactly. The other category of persons is any Nigerian of impeccable character to be nominated. And this must not come from, it doesn't have to come from the community. It could come from the community. It could come from anywhere. As long as such a person is
Nigerian.
To form what we call the executive members. Okay. So these two categories of persons are saddled with the entire management of the committee, who now respond, who report to the board of trustees.
Okay. Now, as much as we've talked about the composition of that, but let's talk about the duties and functions of the management committee, and look at you. I know you made mention of day-to-day running, but let's have a total understanding of what duties and functions this management committee are saddled with.
Yes, section 248. Excuse me. Section 248 of the management committee of the PIA talks about the duties and functions of the management committee. One of the duties or function is to prepare budget for the host communities, budget for the host community trust, and submit to the board of trustees for approval.
Okay.
If I were to break it down, the management committee, having known what project to be done and how much they have in the fund to be able to take to manage projects in that particular year, prepare budget and pass on to the board of trustees for approval. The second thing is that they develop and manage contracting processes.
Okay.
For every project, each and every project to be undertaken by the board, by the host committee.
Say that again. Let's understand.
Develop and manage contracting process.
Okay.
The processes of employing contractors to develop, to execute projects within the communities.
But they're not the ones that bring the contractors to.
Well, like I said last week, contractors first and foremost must be members of the community first, except there is no capable hand within the community, then they can go from it. And the community also have a responsibility of nominating whoever, whether within or outside the community. Yeah. So the third function is to decide the winners and the project the contractors will do.
Okay.
Because they actually did the sourcing, so they also tell us who has won, who qualifies the most to do the project. Then the next one is nomination of fund managers. Remember, we talked about that 20% to be invested on behalf of the community. So they must nominate who be the fund manager, and then also pass on to the board of trustees for approval.
Okay.
The last one is that they report this is the process of accountability here.
Yeah.
So the management committee will report all aspects of whatever they are doing in terms of their direct duties, the responsibilities or activities of the contractors, and any other services that any other person is carrying out on behalf of the host communities. They report all this over to the board of trustees.
Well, anyway, it's really lay out a function of that of the management committee of the board of trustees. But let's talk about what of the nature of fund allocation according to the PIA.
Okay, now, like we mentioned last week, 3% of the oil companies, what's it called? Expenditure for the previous year.
Yes. 3%.
3% for the previous year is what will be used to develop the community in the present year.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
so
it's just like what they gained last year. 3% of it will now be channeled into. Okay.
Yeah. So in this year, the 3% is a certain amount of money.
Of course.
Now, if you bring out that amount of money, is 100%.
Yeah.
75% goes for projects.
20%.
20% for investment, and 5% for management.
Yeah.
Let me also add that the board of trustees, working with the management committee, will ensure that every penny of that 75 of the 100% of the first and foremost of the 75% must be spent in projects within the community, and that not a kobo can be spent outside the community. The PIA actually does what we call overall, assurance to ensure that whatever money that is spent meant for the community, host communities, must be spent within
inside the community.
Yes. Then the other one is that, the 20% that is invested. Now, of course, because the money is invested, it means there will be profit, there will be interest, and all of that. So the profit that comes from this 20% and the interest or whatever, including other funds such as gifts, donations, name it, that may come to the community, will also form part of the monies to be spent by the host community trust, here managed by the board of trustees and the committee, management committee, to do projects within the community.
So it's not like it's being reinvested into the community.
Yes. Now, for every year that the oil company pays 3% to the host communities, the host community trust, 20% of that money every year goes into investment. So if you have 10 years, it means you have 20% for every year put into that particular investment. You can imagine that.
So it's just like a chain reaction.
Of
it
course.
goes and goes and goes
of
and
course,
grows also.
Of course. So these monies will be yielding interest.
Yes.
And all of that. So the interest will
now be channeled back
again. Yeah, you understand that.
So it's not like a loss. It's just like you keep a certain amount aside to help you generate funds while you are also using the 75% to still do what you're doing.
Yes, and the other reason why that money is kept that way is to the eventuality that for any reason, force majeure, whatever,
fall back.
There is no money from the oil company. The oil well has dried up. There's no money, so you still have something to rely upon, where monies can come for continued development of the communities.
Well, thank you so much for that emphasis. But I'll still emphasize that this program is courtesy Community Development Advocacy Foundation, sponsored by Budget, and we're talking about host communities, what they need to know about the PIA as it also affects them, and knowing that the PIA has come to stay and how much of an impact it will be on the communities is what all of this discussion is centered on. Let's come back to it, Mr. Fred, and also throw a similar question to you. Now, you did make mention that the management of the board of our trustees, we do have executive and also members that normally would be nominated from the community.
Okay, you are talking about the management.
Oh, yes.
The management committee.
The management committee.
Yes.
And that of the non-executive, so is it yearly that they are being nominated into it? Or how does the host community do that to get their representative on the management board?
Okay. The board of trustees, like I said earlier, manages every process through nomination, whatever, the remuneration, they will be paid at the end of the day.
Yes, of course.
Fine. They're going to do, what we call the process, job that they will be doing. And that tenure is
engaged on.
Yes. That tenure is 4 years.
4 years?
Yes, in the first
4 years.
In the first instance. It's 4 years. Now, these persons, whether the non-executive members or the executive members, have the possibility of being reappointed for another 1 year. So the maximum you can serve this also goes for the board of trustees. The maximum you can serve is two tenures.
For 4 years.
For 4 years.
Which is 8 years.
Yes.
After that, somebody can come in.
Yes. Of course, you should also know that for you to be reappointed means you have performed relatively well. So if your performance is below standard, the the board has the right, in the case of the management committee, the board has the right to say, okay, fine, you will not come back again.
Okay.
And in the case of the board of trustees, the organization that set it up, the oil company that set it up, also have the responsibility to say, okay, fine, you have done well, but we can't have you again.
Okay, now let's talk about complaints, because naturally, when humans are there, everybody cannot be satisfied with one thing. Thing. So let's talk about complaints. How can communities also talk about maybe non-performance in case of most of this management, or they feel they have complaint as it concerns maybe the siting of a project, they're not comfortable with even the contract agreement process, all of that. So how can complaints really come from the community?
First, it also goes through the hierarchy I spoke about earlier.
Okay.
You have the commission that actually manages the PIA at the national level. You have the oil company. Following them, you have the board of trustees.
Before
and
the
you have the management, and then the community at the lowest level. So if the community has issues with their member whom they have nominated to represent them,
that's what I mean.
Yes, if they have issues, the first line of complaint goes to the management committee.
Okay.
So management committee has the duty and function to manage all issues under it.
Okay.
Same applies for the board of trustees. Now, if within the management committee there is an issue that needs to be resolved, such issues will be looked into by the board of trustees. Okay. Do you understand? Okay. Because the board of trustees regulates exactly. So it goes on like that. So the oil company also determine who become they determine who becomes the member of the board. They determine the duration, the regulation, and all of that. So they also should determine, resolution of conflicts within that.
Okay, well, anyway, well said. And let's still continue with it. And I would really want you to also, I know you said this initially in our very introduction, but let's also look at the full duties of the board of trustees, in case somebody's just joining us now. Yes. And we're like, okay, I heard, but let's truly get the full duties of the board of trustees as it concerns the PIA.
Yeah, let me start. First and foremost, the board of trustees is established by the oil company.
Okay.
Which is called in the PIA the settler, as in SETTLOR.
Settler.
Yeah, settler. So the board of trustees is established by the oil company. The board of trustees becoming an entity applies to registered. Applies to the CAC to be registered, and then the composition. Let me start from there. The composition of the board of trustees is the responsibility of the oil company.
Okay.
They also set their duties and all of that. Now, the management committee, which is we are talking about the board of trustees.
Yes.
So the duties of the board of trustees is actually determined by the oil company. They set the duties, and the duties of the board of trustees. One, the board will carry out the following functions through management committee to be set up by the board. Sorry, that I'm talking about the management committee now. But
yes.
The board of trustees, one, they select the process. The oil company do in setting up the board, they put the process together for the selection of members of the board.
Okay.
The procedure of to ensure that such a person become a member of the board, the financial regulation of the board, and administration of the board, of the procedures of the board. Then they also have the remuneration, discipline, qualification, and disqualification, suspension, and removal of members of any board. These are part of the responsibility of the oil company. Then the nature of member, the tenure of member of the board is also part of the responsibility of the oil company. And then the board shall have a secretary appointed by the company who shall keep the books of the board. So the board has a secretary.
Yes.
The secretary is appointed by the oil company.
Yes.
Who supervises the activities of the board.
And relates to them.
Yes, exactly. Who keep the board. So just as we have this relating to the board, the the management
committee of the
also
board
have this same
breakdown
duties attached to them, managed by the board, just as the way the board is managed
by the oil
companies.
companies. Well, a total breakdown of how things are, and definitely that is how it is. But I know you said this initially in our first half of the discussion, but with for emphasis and for those that are just coming in, let's understand. You did break down the amount that naturally should come to the host community, which is 3%, but also you gave us a total breakdown of value and amount by amount on what will be needed and how that money will be spent or used to develop. So just give us a quick breakdown again of let's get the figures. You made mention of 5%, 25, 20%, and 5%. Please help us with that again.
The oil company that manages the oil mining lease.
Yes.
Let's take OML 30, which is where we are, for
Yes.
example. I think that's who's handling that? And Heritage.
Okay.
Yeah, Heritage. Okay. So for example, Heritage has 100 naira for its activities for last year.
Yes.
100 naira. 3% of that 100 naira, of course, we should know.
Yes.
Is what will be paid to the host community trust fund
For this year.
for this year's projects within all the host communities. Remember, there are so many host communities.
Yeah, of course.
So that's what will be paid into that budget. So the 3% paid to the host community trust fund is now 100%.
Okay.
Out of that 100%, 25%, 75% is for project. Any of the communities, they want to build schools, they want to tie their road, they want health center, whatever. Have 75% to do all this, depending on the quota of your community is actually, contributing to the oil production.
Okay.
So if, for example, community A is contributing 30%, and B is 20%, C is 10%. You understand? So the fund that comes, it also means that community that contribute 30% will also get 30% of that, exactly, to do all this. So that's how that one. Then the next one is a 20% investment fund. This money, this 20% is not meant to be touched by anyone. Nobody eats that money. It's not to be spent on any project, but to be domiciled in what we call investment, to be managed by fund managers and all of that. So the interest that accrued from that money will at every point in time be in the following year channeled back to the monies for projects and all of that. Then the last one is the 5%, which is used for administrative purposes. Yes.
Well, anyway, I need to thank you. Time is not a friend. We really exhausted our time, and I'm talking of no other person. But no, Fred is a member of the Community Development Advocacy Foundation, and helping out to give us a quick and total breakdown of not just what the host community should know about the PIA as it affects them, but also a total breakdown of the duties and functions of the Board of Trustees and Management Committee also, and what functions and duty the Management Committee also has, as also the nature of fund allocation according to the PIA. All of that was really broken down and truly emphasized, and so at least we all would know. But like we made mention, still going to be a continuation as we try to still also enlighten you to know more about the PIA. But also do remember that this program is sponsored by Budget, and definitely that's why we're having it. But all the same, thank you so much for your time, and I'm quite excited that more persons are beginning to understand what the PIA means to them and how they can also be a part of it, especially as it concerns bringing those needed development to host communities. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. And I would also like to tell the listening public that come Wednesday, by the grace of God, we should be here to do the final round of this session. And I will enjoin every member of the communities who has issues to please call in.
Okay.
So that we can talk about whatever their concern is.
Well, anyway, that'll be a good one. So just prepare yourself, prepare those questions that you need to know, or those that really would bother you, that you feel you need to be enlightened about, and definitely you'll be a part of it on Wednesday, like you said. Well, thank you so much, and thank you so much for being a part of this. Well, anyways, Quest is still 93.1 FM and beyond your expectation. But do remember the news will come shortly, but also remember to stay with us because we'll still have awesome programs to run out through the day. God bless you.